Hello, viewers of the Mid-9M channel. Welcome to a new heart-pounding exploration of the unusual and unexplained. We've got a truly skin-crawling story lined up for you today, involving an out-of-the-ordinary seed, a shocking revelation, and a terrifying sequence of events that will have you on the edge of your seat. A hint? It makes A Nightmare on Elm Street and The Shining seem like child's play. So, sit tight, keep the lights on, and prepare yourself for the unimaginable. Remember, if you find yourself entranced by our tale, please like the video, subscribe to our channel, and share with your friends. Let's dive in. We've all seen our fair share of horror movies. Classics such as Wes Craven's A Nightmare on Elm Street and Stanley Kubrick's The Shining were known for filling our mortal souls with dread, creating an unnerving feeling that is only heightened when the film ends, leaving you to linger on with fear. However, the experience that I am about to share with you is no movie. For this, a true horror that is bound to leave you with many questions after discovering this tragedy. My name is Rebecca. I grew up in a household similar to what you would expect from a normal family. My father was a botanist for a small corporation located in western Massachusetts, while my mother was a renowned author, which meant she usually worked from home. Though I saw my mother often, I could not say the same for my father. He worked full-time, which made it difficult to spend time with him or even have a conversation, as he was usually scurrying along to work, like a mouse to a piece of cheese. On the days that I did get to see him, however, my father would usually discuss with me his latest findings at work, or spark up some small talk conversation, like asking about the weather or how my day was going. One day, however, there was something different about him. When my father returned home from work that evening, I was surprised to see how excited he was. He paced around the room as he explained to me the reason for his current state. You see, my father usually shared with me his findings because I myself would like to follow in my father's footsteps, as organic plant life has proved to be an increasingly interesting subject matter that I wish to one day work in an environment full of thriving plant life. Anyways, the reason for my father's excitement was unveiled before me as he pulled something small from his work bag, which appeared to be a single seed. I raised my eyebrows and stared at the seed with curiosity. You see, this was no ordinary seed. It was an average-looking seed, similar to that of a linolake sunflower seed, except there was a strange anomaly that could be seen. The seed, though small, shined as bright as the sun, with a bright red hue, similar to that of raging fire. Me and my father were both shocked and astonished at how this could be. Never in my lifetime have I seen glow so bright with such an odd color. However, as scientists, curiosity is our foundation to learn. So, my father decided to do what would be the most obvious thing to do and plant the seed. For the first few weeks, the plant seemed to be growing perfectly. At this stage, my father and I were able to see a stem form. It looked like a normal stem of a sunflower, confirming our hypothesis that this seed belonged to that species. Everything seemed to be going great. Dad seemed super excited, more so than I've ever seen him before, and my mother seemed to be selling her books like wildfire. Dad's excitement seemed to be beneficial, as he was more productive at work and was even given a raise. It seemed that this little plant was our little good luck charm. So I thought. 3 months had passed ever since we had planted the seed, and everything seemed to be perfect. By now, the flower had fully bloomed and resembled a normal member of the sunflower family, besides the fact that, like in its seed form, its petals glow bright red. One day, I was watching TV while my father was at work and my mother was over at our neighbor's house. Catching up with some of her old friends, I discovered something strange. I was drifting off to sleep on the couch when suddenly I heard someone knocking at the door. Slightly agitated and tired, I slowly dragged myself from the couch and proceeded down the hallway. However, when I opened the door, I was surprised to discover that nobody was there. I stepped outside for a minute and looked around to see if anyone was around. Eventually, I sighed and closed the door, proceeding back down the hallway until again I heard knocking and paused. The knocking was much louder this time, similar to that of a hammer against a nail. I turned around and slowly proceeded back down the hallway, fear starting to build up within me. As I approached the door, the knocking increased to a point where I was scared to see what I would have to face on the other side of the door. As I slowly reached out for the door handle, I grabbed onto it, shaking with fear, and took a deep breath before swinging it open. Once again, nothing. There was nobody in sight. At this point, I figured someone must be messing with me and turned to proceed back inside until I heard something call my name. It sounded more like a harsh whisper, but when I turned back, again nothing. At this point, I was aggravated and shouted at the top of my lungs, "What do you want? Who the hell are you?" and looked around for someone or something that could be the source of this disturbance until once again I heard my name, this time like a ghostly echo. It sounded as if it was off in the distance, but somehow also like a cry for help. So curiosity took over again and I proceeded to follow the whisper, the echo luring me like a siren into its depths. When I finally reached the source of this calling, my eyes grew wide. There, in front of me, was the glowing red flower. It seemed more sinister in the night as it looked as if the flower was glowing even brighter, and I cautiously walked towards it. As I inched closer and closer, the whispers increased and became more dreadful to hear. By this point, I was terrified and still could not comprehend what was happening. Suddenly, something extraordinary happened. What I am about to share with you is absolutely terrifying. The flower, in all its glory, turned to me slowly, and in the middle of its petals, I saw a sinister face. Its eyes, human-like with black pupils and a human mouth with teeth as sharp as knives. Suddenly, the flower bloomed rapidly and grew to such a great size that it was nearly as tall as the second story of our house. Suddenly, the petals on the stem seemed to form what appeared to be cocoons. At this point, I freaked out as the devilish face stared into my soul, not knowing what this monstrous beast had in store for me. I tried to sprint as fast as I could, but as soon as I began running, a root from the ground sprang up and twisted around my leg, dragging me to the ground. I screamed in fear and scratched and grabbed the grass as I desperately tried to escape. However, this was to no avail, and eventually the thing dragged me into the air, and I was forced to witness what this horrid thing was going to do to me. Suddenly, the cocoon began to shake rapidly back and forth and disconnected from the plant, falling hard onto the ground. I looked at the somewhat translucent thing and saw what appeared to be a silhouette of a woman inside. Suddenly, the thing stuck its hand out from the cocoon like a zombie rising from the dead, and I screamed in fear as this thing began to unravel itself and peel its way from its enclosure. When I saw the figure in full view, however, my eyes went wide. There, standing in front of me, was none other than me. However, this copy was not as similar to the original, as it was entirely made out of organic plant life. Its hair made out of long wavy vines and body of bark and birch. Its eyes were also as black as the night and contained the same similar grin that its host had. The thing slowly walked over to me, and when it reached about a foot away from me, leaned it to stare at me with those soulless eyes before grinning wickedly, showing off its sharpened teeth. "Your life is mine," it said, and I found myself in a struggle and screaming for my life as the thing grabbed me and carried me over to its host, which then grew another slimy, alien-like cocoon that ripped open down the middle and opened as if it were a door to a great hall. Suddenly, the thing threw me in the cocoon, and the enclosure sealed itself with me inside. I panicked, but to no avail. My life was over. I was now trapped inside this thing with no way to escape. The monster seemed to be satisfied with its meal, and slowly I felt myself becoming weak. Skin became prickly and hard, and my hair began to fall out of my head until there was nothing left. I was deteriorating into nothing. I noticed that while this was happening, my copy went through a type of metamorphosis. Its vines were becoming hair and its body transforming into flesh and bone, starting from the insides until the entire thing looked exactly like me. I tried to let out one last cry for help, but found myself too weak to do so, and eventually, when the flower reduced its size back into its original form, I had transformed into something else. A type of fertilizer, you could say, forced to be a part of this thing's roots, as it dragged me into the dirt deep below the ground. This thing was now living my life, and each day I had to suffer as I watched this parasite infiltrate my home. The reason for my story is this: if you ever notice something you have never seen before, do not approach it. This thing now resides over my home, waiting to lure its next victim to its deadly peril. Look out for its signature red glow, as this is what will ultimately lead to your demise as you venture further into the unknown.